right, and welcome back to The Reality Check. This week, we're diving into something that's quietly become one of the biggest shifts in business today, and it's all about applications. As I promised at the very beginning, I'd try and wear a different hat in every episode, and here I am with hat number 3. So I'm joined again by Tanner. Tanner, welcome, who's going to help us unpack this big subject. Tanner, great to have you back.
Hey, it's great to be here, Tony. And you're incredibly right. It's one of those topics that's happening everywhere to everyone, but I don't think that everybody fully realizes the scale and the speed quite yet.
So let's start there then. We keep hearing this stat that over 100 applications is probably about the average that an enterprise is using today. I mean, that sounds huge, but what does that actually mean in real terms?
Sure. And quite frankly, I think 100 is conservative, if I'm being honest. So
yeah,
either way, it's a good place to start, right? So what it actually means at the end of the day is that businesses are not really running on core systems anymore. They're running on ecosystems. So if you think about this kind of in context, you're running SaaS applications, you've got cloud native applications, you've got legacy systems that are part of that previous culture and architecture. You've got third-party APIs that you may be utilizing as part of other applications. You've got AI services on top of that. And they're all interconnected and they all have to be interoperable and functional together. So instead of maybe one or two critical systems, if you think like in the past, the inventory management system was on the AS400 or this system was hosted locally on web apps, you've got dozens or hundreds maybe, and not just applications, but connection points and data coming from one place or another, all working together to deliver what is now in the application world a simpler experience. And as an application developer, right, as a software engineer, which is my background, these were simple but complex architectures, and now they're simpler, but their architectures become much more dependent on each other.
So it's not just about apps, it's more about dependencies.
It does. Dependency is the key word, right? Every application today is relying on multiple layers, networks, cloud providers, internet service providers, APIs. And to put it frankly, if any one of those single layers has an issue, the whole experience breaks.
And I guess, Tanner, that's where it gets interesting, right? Because from a customer perspective, they don't see any of that complexity. They just see whether it works or whether it doesn't work.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, we're all customers of somebody's complex architecture, right? We don't really care if something goes down, if we can't deposit checks or check our accounts or do what have you. We don't really care if it's a network issue or a cloud issue or a single API that they're connecting to. All we and everyone at large really knows is this app is not working. And that becomes bigger than an application problem. For many companies, that becomes a brand problem.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about access then? Because this is something that I think most people underestimate. How are applications actually being accessed today compared to, say, maybe 5 or 10 years ago?
I don't think you'd even have to go back that far, Tony. It's very different, right? 5 or 10 years ago, most of the core applications we would use would come from inside of our corporate network. One, that was a physical thing, but also an architecture thing. You had employees sitting in offices. You had them behind firewalls on managed devices. We had a desktop PC. Today, applications are accessed from everywhere and everybody's hardware, right? You check your mail on your phone, your laptop, maybe your other computer that you have, or your iPad. So there's a lot more. The plane is much larger. So remote workers, mobile devices, customers on their own home Wi-Fi, traveling, sitting on public Wi-Fi, third-party partners all over the place. And all of that access is happening over different kinds of networks. So the public internet, you've got ISPs, traditional ISPs, mobile networks, cloud backbones, the whole bit.
So I guess the front door to every business pretty much has effectively moved.
Yeah. Calling it a single front door may be a bit of a misnomer. Yeah. It used to be a physical building, right? Your brand was I use banking a lot because everybody's familiar with it, but you would go to the physical location. Now it's everywhere. It's on everybody's network. It's in every geography, in every home Wi-Fi, on every device. So It's your application, but that application is being accessed over infrastructure that you do not control. In fact, you do not control much of any of it anymore.
Now, Tanner, we have talked a little bit with customer bias there, but this isn't just external, is it? I mean, employees are now just as dependent on applications as pretty much customers are.
Very much so. I would say that in some cases more. That dependency is critical to their productivity, to their job. For many customers, it's a brand calculation or it's an inconvenience, but for the employee, it's very big. So it's not just about customer experience. It's absolutely about employee experience as well. And that's a loose word, experience, but it's the best way to encapsulate it. So your workforce relies on applications for everything. If you just think about what you use in a given day to manage your time, to look at your sales progress, et cetera, collaborate, sales, finance, operations, et cetera. So when those applications slow down or worse, they fail, productivity drops, employee frustration is through the roof, and ultimately business performance suffers at a pretty good scale. So you got two sides of the same coin, customer experience on the outside in, and then employee experience on the inside out. And both of those are completely dependent on application performance.
So whether it's a customer trying to buy something or an actual employee trying to do their job, the dependency is the same.
It's very much the same. And that's why visibility and resilience matter across the whole digital ecosystem, not just the customer facing side.
And this, for our listeners, is where digital risk starts to creep in.
It very much is. And that's the big shift. That's the TLDR at the end of it, right? That is what's being exposed. So traditionally, risk is something you manage inside either your physical walls, your own data center, your own managed network, your own systems. But now application delivery depends on all kinds of external environments, things you don't control, cloud providers, internet routing, third-party services you might use. So your risk surface has expanded exponentially. And in most cases, you don't have visibility into it.
Now, if you don't mind, Tanner, let's please dig into that word visibility, because we hear it a lot, but what does it actually mean in this context?
True. I think that's probably wise. So visibility, if I put it into a simple definition, is about understanding the entirety of the path of a user's experience. So not just green or red or yellow, but how is it performing? Where in that chain is latency being introduced? Which network provider might be the cause of that latency or issue? And then, is it just impacting people in this specific geography on this specific carrier? Without knowing that, modern enterprises are essentially guessing. They don't know. They just see the red. Is it up? Is it down? Are you going to take one picture or one point of feedback from an individual, or do you get to the real root cause?
So in a nutshell, without visibility, you're reacting and not really managing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So you're in reactive mode, right? You're waiting for a customer to complain. You're essentially waiting to get a call at the fire station, right? Instead of monitoring. So you're trying to piece together what's gone wrong after the fact. And oftentimes across a lot of different teams, different providers, different levels of, what data they provide back to you. And so that delay, that's where the real cost comes in. And it is increasingly faster now. We used to measure, the mean time to recover in hours and, then minutes. And I think this next chapter of our world will be seconds or milliseconds.
Now, I guess that brings us nicely to digital resilience. If you could, for our listeners, how would you define digital resilience in simple terms?
So digital resilience is really the ability of your business to maintain and recover digital experiences, no matter what happens underneath, right? So even if there's a network outage or the cloud provider fails or there's a third-party chain breakdown, it's your ability to detect it fast, understand what it is and where it is, and then isolate and resolve it fast. So it's not, we always talk to people, you and I both said this, it's not if, it's when, right? There is an outage somewhere all the time, everywhere. So it is not really whether or not it's going to happen. It's whether or not you are resilient enough to recover it and protect your brand and protect your employees, protect your customers, ultimately protect the organization as a whole. That's resilience.
And I guess we know it's not about preventing every issue, because that's really probably impossible.
It is. So modern technology, even with the best and the largest providers on the planet, outages are inevitable. Issues are going to be inevitable. You can just look at the news. There's lots of times that you'll see major names, having full-scale global outages, right? For minutes, for hours. So resilience is ultimately how quickly and effectively can you, as someone, as a business or an organization that's reliant upon those, how well and how fast can you respond, and how well can you protect that customer experience when something goes really wrong?
And for our listeners, this is where the business conversation changes, because this isn't just an IT discussion anymore.
No, not at all. I would say that evolution has been moving for the past few years, right? This is business critical at this point, because when an application failed, we talked about dependency, right? Everyone uses applications in some form or fashion, and they're increasing, right? We talked about an average of 100. When an application fails in an enterprise environment, transactions stop. Customers leave your brand. Actual revenue is lost. And the worst thing that is, trust gets damaged. So digital performance and resilience is directly tied to business outcomes. Now, this is not a convenient, good to have thing for IT or a job that makes the network administrator's life easier. It's a core discipline from the C-suite down. What is our digital resilience? What is our ability to have visibility across those core applications, and ultimately the experiences that your customers and your employees are having?
So Tanner, if you were a business leader listening to this podcast, what's the one thing they should be thinking of right now?
I would probably say, or probably ask rather, do you truly understand what your customers are experiencing across every application, every network, every moment they interact with you? Because if the answer to any of that is no, then you have exposure to digital risk, whether you realize it or have quantified it or not.
Wow, that is a powerful place to land, because it really reframes the conversation from technology to experience and ultimately to business impact.
You've got it. And so the organizations that get ahead of this, those that are investing in visibility, digital resilience, understanding the full digital delivery chains, they will be the companies that win. They will be the companies that end up on top.
Brilliant, Tanner. Thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a hugely insightful opportunity to spend this time with you talking about applications. And for everyone listening, that is Reality Check this week, which was week 3. Remember this, your application isn't just part of your business, it is your business. And the question is, do you know what your customer and your employees are experiencing right now? Thank you. See you next time on the Reality Check when we get into week 4.